I was in California visiting my brother who went to Pepperdine. So me and my family are out shopping on this real big street full of amazing stores. The first night we were on the same street for dinner, and in fact we spent a lot of time on that little strip. So there was a homeless man sitting on the side outside the restaurant, and as we were walking out, my dad gave me a $5 bill to go give to the homeless man. He had white hair and a long beard. He reminded me of Gandalf. I handed him the $5 and he said thanks and nodded, and I smiled and skipped off back to my parents. Well, I started noticing this dude everywhere. Seriously, everywhere. Walking around the hotel parking lot and chilling out on the sidewalk, like multiple times throughout the week-long trip. On our last day in Cali, we were back in the same area where I originally encountered the man. We are on our way to our car, but we decide to go into a souvenir store really quick. My parents walked out without me. Being the third child, this is very normal, and I'm not sure if my parents are even aware I exist sometimes. My life is literally the dark sequel to Home Alone. Once I realize my family is not in the store, I am walking out to the door, trying to catch up, when the Gandalf homeless man grabs me by my shoulder and literally turns my whole body to face him. He looks me straight in the eyes and tells me how beautiful I am, passes me a piece of paper all folded up, and hugs me so tight, and, this is weird, he kissed my neck. Obviously, I knew this was whack, and once I was fully aware of the danger I was in, I untangled myself from him and booked it down the sidewalk to catch up with my parents. As I was struggling to get away from the man, he keeps repeating, "Don't show your mom, don't tell your mom," over and over. Like, dude, come on, I'm obviously gonna tell my mama. Anyways, I run up to my parents, and I'm like traumatized, and they don't even notice. I open up the letter he gave me, and it says, "I've been watching you. It has been such a pleasure being in your company for the last week. I find your smell and look so appealing, and you are the most captivating person I have ever come across." This was only a tiny fraction of the letter. There was much, much more, front and back. Unfortunately, I never got to read the whole thing, because my parents finally noticed I have this weird, dirty, and crinkled piece of paper, and the look on my face was probably priceless. Anyways, my dad grabs it out of my hand and he reads it, but not out loud. He gets about halfway down the paper and then screams, "That's disgusting," and crinkles it back up and throws it aggressively in the trash. I wish I knew what it said, but I know it's probably best for me that I don't. There are literally so many questions, like how this guy knew my hotel because he was in the parking lot. I saw him out the window wandering around the hotel, which was a good while away from where we first saw him. How did this dude show up so many times in my week-long trip? Obviously, this was on purpose. Did he know it was my last night, and that's why he felt the need to give me a letter? Is he even homeless, or is he just actually a creepy stalker that likes to prowl the streets for a new child to stalk? Who knows? Guess we never will.
3 years ago, October in Minnesota, I had just started dating my now wife. I was obsessed with working out and asked her if she would like to use one of my guest passes at the YMCA. She begrudgingly agreed, and we started heading to the closest YMCA near her house. We were about a couple miles away from the gym, with my wife driving south on a busy street, when I noticed on the other side of the road, heading north, a woman was walking on the sidewalk while holding something. Next to her, driving slowly on the shoulder of the road, was an F-350. The hairs on my neck stood up, and I shuddered after seeing them. My whole body had goosebumps. I told my wife that she needed to do a U-turn so we could see what was going on. We did the U-turn and got behind the F-350. I noticed immediately that the woman was barefoot and holding a baby wrapped in a blanket. I got out of the car and I told my wife to stay in the car and to call the police if anything happened. When I started walking towards the woman, the first thing I noticed was that she was barefoot. With it being October in Minnesota, the temperature was around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, so no one should be walking around without shoes and socks on. When I got closer to her, I saw the baby was only wearing a diaper wrapped in a thin blanket. As I got closer, I could hear the guy in the truck yelling at the woman to please get in the truck now. I finally reached the woman and asked her if she was okay and if she needed help. She said yes and that the guy wouldn't leave her alone. Right then, a different woman started jogging past. I forgot my phone in the car, so I asked the woman jogging if she had the cell phone, and if she could call the police, which she did immediately. I turn around to face the truck, and I see the man getting out. As he is walking towards us, he is now pleading with the woman to get in the truck with him. I position myself between him and the woman, and he stopped when he was about 3 feet away from me. I told him that he wasn't going to come any closer and that the police were on their way. Now, while the guy stopped walking towards us, he completely ignored me and didn't acknowledge what I just said. This is where the story gets a little weird. The two of them start having a conversation that made zero sense with me standing between them. He said, "Honey, just get in the truck and come home." She said, "You kicked me out and told me to leave." He said, "No, I didn't. I came upstairs and you and the baby were gone." She said, "You never let me leave," opposite of what she just said, "and never let me do anything and never let me spend any of our money." He said, "We don't have any money, our credit cards are maxed out, you don't have shoes on, and our baby is cold. Please, let's just go home." She yelled, "I'm never coming home with you. You don't let us do anything ever." At this point, 2 police cars showed up with 4 cops. 1 cop spoke with the man, 1 with the woman, and the other 2 cops took statements from both me and the jogger. I'm not sure what took place that day with the couple and the baby. I stepped in because I had automatically assumed that some sort of abuse was taking place, where the woman was trying to escape him. Maybe that was happening, or maybe the woman was having a mental breakdown. I will never know. Either way, one of the strangest 10 minutes of my life.
Lately I've been reading different threads on here, and it got me to thinking about some of my past creepy encounters. This one happened 3 years ago when I was 20. I was at a Steak and Shake with my friend and her boyfriend at the time. This is the first time I had ever met this guy, and he turned out to be a super douche, so I wasn't wanting to spend any more time with them that night. Anyway, as we were leaving, I tell my friend that I need to follow them out of town, since we were in his hometown, which was about an hour away from hers, and my town was 30 minutes further north, so I was quite unfamiliar with this area. I explained that my phone was dying and I didn't have my car charger with me. She told me that I could just follow them, and I told her that I only needed to follow them to the interstate, and then I would know where I was from there. So we all leave, and I followed them to a house that I assumed was his house, which confused me because I didn't know that she had plans to go back there. Later on, I found out she was grabbing her laundry, but they both went inside, so I thought she was staying, and I decided it was late and I should just find my own way home. I had already been waiting for 15 minutes, so I drive all around the town, trying to use my shitty phone that would randomly turn off at times, hoping that my GPS could get me out of town before my phone died or shut off. I am a very unlucky person, so my phone in fact died, but I somehow managed to find my way to the interstate at 1 a.m. I still had no idea where I was going and was trying to find a familiar exit. I ended up missing my exit because I wasn't sure if it was the right one, and I ran out of familiar exits to take, so I took the last one possible that was an exit to Kansas City, Kansas. I am a Kansas native, and I figured I could find some place to stop and either buy a car charger or find a place where I could charge my phone for a few minutes. I'm driving around and I take the downtown exit and ended up by the place where they held the gay pride events. I had been there a month or so earlier with some friends in support of them being gay. Anyway, I ended up finding a bar that was open, and it happened to be the only place open. It's now 2 a.m., and I am over an hour away from home with a dead phone, so I am desperate to charge my phone so I can call my brother and have him direct me home. He used to live in Kansas City, so he knows the area well. It is a dangerous place to be at night, especially if you're a female. Just to give you a visual, at the time I was 4'10" and weighed 140 pounds. I was 20 years old, and while I had a baby face, I also had a curvy body that made me appear to be older. I go into the bar and walk up to the counter, and I explain the situation to the female bartenders. They ask if I want a drink while they charge my phone for me. Tell them no, that I'm driving, and also 20. They ended up giving me a free glass of water because they could tell I was scared. I'm sitting there observing my surroundings and talking to a few people at the bar that heard my story. They thought it was messed up that my friend didn't tell me where she was going and left me stranded in an unfamiliar town. Now, a man of Mexican ethnicity, just setting the scene, that appeared to be around 40 or 50, sat down next to me and started chatting me up. He asked what I was doing there alone, and I explained what had happened. He told me that I needed to find a better friend and asked if I was going to be all right to go home. I told him that I'm just charging my phone so I can call my brother. This guy seriously says, "I live around the corner from here. You can come crash at my place if you don't feel safe waiting here." I politely tell him no thanks and that I will be okay. He proceeds to try and lure me out of the bar with him for at least 15 minutes. Now, other people could tell that I was freaked out, and by then everyone there kind of knew my story. Finally, the guy said that he was going to use the bathroom and told me not to go anywhere. I quickly asked the bartender from my phone and called my brother. He told me to get to my car, which was parked directly across the street under a street lamp. I kept him on the phone while I thanked the bartender for her help. A nice young couple walked the bathroom so the man couldn't follow me out, and I booked it to my car. My brother gave me directions, and I finally got my GPS to work. I made it home almost 2 hours later, and I couldn't have been more shaken and creeped out. I don't know what this man had planned on doing to me, but I just had the worst gut feeling that once he got me alone, he wasn't going to let me leave. The way he looked at me and talked to me made me feel like he was going to rape me and possibly kill me. I wasn't uneasy because he was Mexican, or even a man. Normally that's my type of guy, but he was way older than me and tried to prey on me because I was young and alone. I apologize for the long version of this story, but I wanted the readers to be able to picture it as they read it. Since that night, I always have a car charger, and I never go to unfamiliar places alone.
This happened about 4 years ago in northern Nevada. It was summer. Main reason I remember is the house didn't have AC, so we would leave the wooden front door open, with the screen door closed, and I guess locked as far as the screen door goes, because the house was hot. Either way, I was doing some dishes looking at the front of the house, not by choice, but due to the layout of the floor plan. We lived in a semi-quiet suburban area. In comparison to my previous living conditions, it felt safe enough to do this. The front lawn was replaced by a bed of loose rocks, so anyone that walks on the rocks, it creates a noticeable sound. So I was fairly familiar with the people that would walk on a daily basis, but this strange man walking on our side of the sidewalk stuck out to me. Never seen him before. He was wearing a large blue jacket with his hands in its pockets. Mind you, the door was open because it was hot, so I froze for a moment as I observed this cat walk past the bed of rocks and pivot toward my garage door. My SO was talking behind me, but I couldn't hear shit except my breathing and heartbeat. This feeling has happened before. At the same moment he pivoted, I sprinted out of the kitchen and around the wall to the front door, closing it quietly and deadbolting it first. My SO was pissed because I jumped so quickly that I didn't even say excuse me or anything. Guy stopped short of the door looking confused. He never knocked nor approached the door. He turned and walked away. Never saw him again. TLDR. Weird man tried to sneak in my open front door during summer while wearing a jacket. Got a Final Destination type feeling and bolted to the door, closing it and locking it. Dude walked away, didn't knock or ask for help.